To get started here, just wrapped up our red zone day. I think our guys have put together a good week, and not a whole bunch new for you other than what we've already talked about. So I'll go ahead and open it up.
Man, what is Trevathan's status? How close is he? What do you have to do? And how does Ogletree's performance kind of not complicate, but figure?
Yeah. No, Danny's doing a good job. I think, to be able to see him out there working through everything, I think he looks good. And so we'll continue to work through his status and where he's at. And, it's been good that Alec Ogletree, to be able to come in here like he has and make some big plays, has certainly helped. So we'll keep talking through that, working through it, but appreciate Danny and where he's at.
I know Tariq Cohen isn't eligible to come off the pup for a couple weeks, but are you confident that he'll be good to go when he is due, or is it looking like it might be a little longer?
Well, he's working every day. I mean, it's I know it's been a long process for him and for everybody, but the only thing we can ask is that he's present every day. He does everything he can health-wise to continue to try to get back to that point that we know he'll get back to. So the only thing we can do is just keep asking him to keep pushing. Even as frustrating at times it can probably be for him, he's always kept a positive spirit. So we'll just keep monitoring that.
Would Matt have you, or is it necessary to have the conversation about the temptations of Vegas?
I have not gone there with the guys. It's definitely a valid question by you. But at the same point in time, I hope our guys are mature enough and understand enough to be smart, and I think that's why we also have that curfew.
Matt, Damian is a different running back than David. He does some different things, but are there things he brings that are positives in that way, that he brings something new that maybe you don't have with David because of their different styles?
Well, yeah, they are a little bit different styles. One thing I think when you look at David, he's a guy that can, when he hits you, he can make you still miss. And when Damian is in the open field, and you saw David do it too, they can make you miss in space. So they both have that, and Damian has the ability to yards after contact type deal. So they are similar. The place where they're the most similar, I think, is their mentality. I always talk about they got the dog mentality. I love that about them. Damian is a little bit more vocal, or maybe not vocal, but extroverted than David, and to each their own. That means nothing other than their personality. But I know to be able to have them both was great. And then in this situation, when David gets hurt, we feel like, hey, for Damian to be able to come in here and help us, we feel like we're in a good place.
This is a guy who was, a couple minutes away from maybe being the MVP of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
To have somebody who has done it before and has been a featured back before, is that a luxury as a backup?
Yeah, I think so. And for Damian, as we discussed in the offseason when he was a free agent and just talking to him, he understood his role coming in here, and it was complementary to what we were doing with David. But yes, when you go back and you say, okay, big time moments, he played at on a big time stage and made some big time plays. So I think the players know that, the coaches know that. So there's a sense of calm knowing that in this type of situation he can step in.
We saw him in the preseason run pretty well. He's a rookie, though. How much faith do you have in him out there? I mean, knowing that if you miss a pass block or something.
Yeah. Well, it's rookie stuff. That's where they learn with some of the protection things. But the one thing that you see with Khalil is that he's a smart football player that makes a lot of plays. Also, he's also a physical running back too. So I think he's patient. He's very patient. He sees the holes when he's running. He's learning. Coach Petrie's done a great job at teaching these guys. I really like how he's mentored them. But we feel comfortable with them, and we know that there's, just as we've talked with Justin, there's going to be ebb and flows, right, that go on. And so I think with these running backs or any position at rookie, you just don't want it to be that one time where it's a crucial time. So we got to make sure we coach them up as best we can.
Damian's starting, and not a guy over the course of his career who's had a lot of 20, 25 touch games. I assume that Khalil has to get the 6 to 10 touches that Damian was getting when David was starting.
I would think so, yeah.
So, I mean, how ready for the moment is he?
We'll see. We'll see. And the nice thing is that for Khalil, this isn't something that he hasn't been out there with the starters on kickoff. He's been out there. He's had some contact, and he gets reps in practice. So it's different when the lights hit. But again, it goes into that trust factor of he's somebody that's played at in front of a lot of people at Virginia Tech as well. So I think he's pretty mature.
Who does he resemble a little bit more, David or Damian?
That's a great question. I'd probably say he might be in the middle of them. He really might be in the middle of them.
And through the whole quarterback process, your relationship with Andy, and whether it was not the obligation you felt or whatever, it just seemed to really trouble you or be difficult for you on a personal level. And I'm wondering, now that you're kind of past that, do you think that will help you as a coach? Do you think that will help you coach better, not having that kind of complication, one guy versus the other? Does this help you to be at this point now?
Well, so where we're at right now, and even the last couple of days, just working through the structure of how the days go and where Andy's at as the backup, and then just in meetings, like how the meetings go and stuff. Some of that you work through that, but it is because of who Andy is and who he's been this whole time. He's never changed, and so even as we were going through, when Andy was the starter and Justin was the backup, and vice versa, when Andy got hurt and Justin was coming in, and we played Cleveland and went through that tough loss, and then came back and got ready for Detroit. For me personally, it didn't feel any different. I would just say, like, big picture now, the last couple of days that we've been able to work through how practice goes and how the future goes, Andy's been great. And I think it's important that you have guys that you're open with, you communicate with, so that we can all understand moving forward just kind of how it goes. And part of that is with Andy, and he helps that by being such a good guy.
But do you feel any kind of, maybe it's a bad word, but relief that you're at this point, that not, that you're
No.
getting that part of it out of the way?
No, I don't think so, because again, in that moment when you're coaching all these guys, I mean, you're trying to do everything you can when Andy was the starter to be the best quarterback he could be, and there's still a ton of, like for all of us to make sure that we're doing everything we can for Justin now to be the best quarterback he can be. So, relief's probably not the word that I would go to, because there's always, in this profession, you're always trying to do everything you can to make sure that you make these guys best quarterbacks they can be.
A question for you about Fields' development, and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to pry into something that you don't want to reveal for strategic reasons, but if you can give one specific real thing that you're looking for improvement with him this week, if there's some element of his game or mechanics or anything that you want to see just get a little bit better.
Yeah, like for us, just for him continuing to grow with, really just everything. There's such a broad answer when I answer that, and the fact that even like practice habits of how he goes from, like, the thing that I've seen, and this is a positive, and we're going to always be on him every day in practice, is the routine that he gets in every day from play to play, setting a routine. I forget if I talked to you about it before, but it's like, a golfer before they tee off, or a batter when he's on the on-deck circle. There's a routine before you call the play. Little things that don't actually affect too much of on Sunday what happens, but just growing that way. And he's done that, because when he first got here, he didn't have that routine. So that's a baby step in that regard. On the field, nothing other than the generic, keep working on the progressions, keep working on your footwork and timing. And I think it's more so of a big picture thing. So it's hard to, I apologize, but it's hard to be real specific on that.
That's fine. Can you give anything specific that you've seen in practice then, where you're seeing him settle into the job a little bit more, where he looks more on top of things than he did first rushed in there?
Yeah, probably like anybody, when you're in practice and, I go back to just his first day of practice heading into that Cleveland week. You're the starter, and it's the first time you're going through everything as a starter. From that day until that Wednesday of this week, 3 weeks later or whatever it is, those 2 days were drastically different. So in a good way. Like
In terms of what?
Just in terms of just his tempo, in and out of the huddle, all that. Because your first day when you're in there, you're trying to, okay, I'm going to call the play right. I'm going to get in. I'm going to check the clock. I'm going to make my mic ID. I'm going to do whatever I have to do, and that's all a little bit slower. And then you got to make the throw, right? You got to get to the right spot. This Wednesday when we started, if you just compare those Wednesdays, he's already been doing that. So every week it's getting a little bit easier, a little bit faster. The procedure.
Does it translate to him being maybe more authoritative or something?
Yeah.
Because now he knows.
I think so, yeah. I think you feel that.
Along those lines, you have talked a couple times about the Monday to Saturday process.
Yeah.
Beyond practice, are there other things that he needs to be getting better at, or what are some of those details? Beyond
No, I mean, just continuing to listen to Coach Laser and Coach Flip in that room and understand when they're watching. And I think now you start getting into game-by-game scheme management. Scheme, what's the defense look like? And now what happens is now you start to learn these families of defenses in the NFL. So for instance, this weekend against Gus Bradley, there's a family of defense that he's done for his entire career, or most of his career, and so there's that family. And so now you go to the next week and you play a different defense, and it's a family of defenses. So I think now he starts to learn that side of the ball as much or not more than the offense and what we're doing.
With Akeem.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to ask about
Go
Hicks
for
as
it.
well.
I'm sure.
It's going to be great. We'll have two of these questions. I saw that he's doubtful. Is the outlook for him, generally speaking, better than you had thought? Can you gauge that?
Again, just working through it with him, and I think once we get to see how the rest of today goes and tomorrow, we'll have a better answer. But it's I don't have anything more than that right now.
Is the IR a possibility?
What's that?
IR a possibility for him?
I don't think so, but that's something that we'd be working through.
I think it was that Raiders.
Who are you guys talking about? Your
Hicks.
Oh yeah, correct. Yeah, sorry.
With Akeem, was that Raiders game a couple years ago when he got hurt in that first game?
Yeah.
From that season, what did you learn about, like, when he was out? I guess how much he means, but also maybe 2 years later you have better ways to kind of mitigate his absence.
Sure. Well, yeah, we definitely all remember that game in London, and it's unfortunate when he got hurt early in the game like that. And he's a warrior. He's a tough guy that means so much to this defense, and our guys know it, and we appreciate that about him. I think right now, if you guys would probably agree in here that coming into this season, that was one of our strengths, was the depth of the defensive line. So being able to head into any of these games when you don't have him, we rely on that. When he is in and he is playing, I think everybody sees what kind of player he is, and we appreciate that.
We've talked about this. I know you've pointed out there's only so many footballs to go around, but still through 4 games, 69% of your targets to Allen, Darnell, and your 2 running backs. How important is it to get your other weapons involved, and how do you attack them?
Yeah, it's important in a way of just kind of knowing, okay, what are defenses doing to us? But that's not something that, when we go through the game plan together, we'll always kind of go through and see, okay, make sure we're not too heavy in one area or the other, because they look too at who you're throwing to. They're going to try to take certain guys away, and we got to be able to have plan B and plan C. So I would say probably the biggest thing right now that y'all have brought up and that I agree with is the tight end target production has been a lot lower than probably we thought going into this point. I also would probably, you guys would agree with me that that I love tight ends, and so it's something that we're going to try to make sure that we help out and stuff, but there's going to be times, again, I'll go back to it. Last week, we ran the football, and our tight ends were able to be a huge part of that. And so sometimes it doesn't reflect it in the stat book, but we're always trying to do everything we can to do whatever is best for this offense.
Matt, in the first 4 weeks, how would you assess the play of your offensive line so far?
Yeah, I think that they've done a great job at we had that one game against Cleveland against a pretty dominant front where, again, that's not just the O-line, but they would tell you that that's a game where we all feel like everybody collectively, and they're a part of that we could have played better. But I just love the fact of their mentality. They don't ever get too high or low. They don't want a lot of credit, and I think it's a reflection of Juan and Donnie and then those players in general. Like they just care about the team, and they know that they're a big part of our success, whether it's running the ball or in pass protection. They're also all leaders too, and I think it's been great for Jason Peters to get in here as a big time vet and really help tie everything together. So it's been good.
Not with Jesse James. Is there any clarity you can give us? I know he's been gone a week.
Yeah. As far as what? It's all personal right now for him. So, yep. Thank you guys. Y'all take care.